So overall, access is super easy. It's an easy drive. It's gravel for the last quarter, half mile just from the main road here. A little bumpy, but like flat. I wouldn't have any concerns about two-wheel drive cars getting here. The only issue you're gonna have with the drive in is right here at the driveway, because it's a little sloped and the gravel is a little loose. You can see that there's kind of like some mud. It looks like maybe from where they cut in the driveway, just a little bit of, and or maybe they just didn't put enough gravel down. A little bit of mud in the driveway. So obviously, unless you pave it, anytime you have a gravel driveway, which is super normal and common around here, anytime you have a gravel driveway, you just kind of want to budget for some maintenance there. But again, not a big deal, not a major concern or something that's gonna jeopardize how interesting of a property this is. Just something to budget for. So either thinking about paving the entryway at some point, or just budgeting maybe a couple $100 every month or two for coming in and re-graveling or regrading every 6 to 12 months if it's an issue. And it may not be, again, because it's just a short little and it's not even that steep. So I came up in I'm not in four-wheel drive, I'm just in this it is all-wheel drive, and so I didn't have any issues, didn't really struggle at all or have any slippage. And it has been pretty rainy lately, so anyway, over explaining that, but I like to do that when I think it's helpful. So overall, like, tons of parking space, totally private, no one in sight. So I really like this location. And one question would be what this is. I'm assuming maybe something related to utilities, water or septic maybe. So I'll find out about that. And I will also ask if they have plans to re-gravel or anything like that, and we could probably just negotiate that in the offer as well. Thinking about kind of flat spaces, I see a marker for the property line right here. So just thinking about flat spaces for additional amenities. You do have some flattish space kind of in the middle of the roundabout. You could obviously, you don't need all this driveway. It's nice that there's a loop, but you could also just have people park kind of right here and then use these other parts of the driveway for amenities. That's an option. It's also relatively flat up on this top side of the property. Obviously, you have this area that you could reconfigure the fire pit somewhere else and take advantage of that existing flat area. This isn't overly sloped either. It's fairly flat over here. Obviously, if you used this space, you'd have to do a little bit of retaining or something. And similar story on this side of the property too. There's a deer in the tree there. Here's another marker of your property line. Another marker here. So fairly sloped over here, but again, you've got some options for some smaller flat spaces that you could create, including kind of going over there, but mostly at least some level of slope. This deck is probably not quite big enough for a hot tub to have on it. This is probably about 4.5, 5 feet wide. But this deck is a little wider. So you could definitely have a hot tub like in that corner if you wanted to. Little mini fridge, freezer. Stove tub. Notice that I don't see a dishwasher, which is kind of to be expected when you're buying. I would classify this property as in the tiny home category, and that's quite common and not a big deal. I actually personally own a couple of tiny homes that don't even have a cooktop or a dishwasher, and it's totally fine. Kind of wired up for the TV right here. You got lots of recessed lighting on the decks too. It's a cool window. Laundry area. Got dimmers on the light switches, which is always nice. So there's literally not really like a house in sight. This part's a little rough, but again, super flat. So this road doesn't bother me. The entry, I'll get video here. The entry feels like pretty commercial. So it's kind of like a, kind of an interesting entry to get to the property, but it's super easy to find and super close to the main road while also feeling very private and tucked away. So I don't really have any concerns about the location, the general neighborhood. There's a trailer right here, and then again, just like this commercial stuff. But it's like very well kept. It's an older looking trailer. But you get a lot of that in these mountain towns if you're watching this and you're not really familiar with these areas. But here's kind of the street. So you got like some storage units and then some commercial stuff, and then you're like, you can see on Google Maps, but there's a bunch of commercial stuff right across the street. But as far as trailers go, it's well kept and neat. There's nothing really in the yard. The lawn, the landscaping looks like it's maintained, and I don't have a problem with that. It's also far away from the property, and not really something I think guests will care about, or they'll be used to that if they're coming to this area. So again, this is the access, and this is the main artery through town right here. And you've got the Ingalls across the street, and then downtown is just a few minutes away. So it's a phenomenal location to be this close, and then to not have any of the road noise because you're tucked far away is awesome and unique. So I definitely sign off on this property and am comfortable selling it, and I think guests will really appreciate the proximity to town and the ease of getting there.